Hello and welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. Today's guest is Gary Acevedo. Acevedo. No, I didn't say that right. So,
Basically.
Gary, why don't you tell me what it's supposed to say as I'm like, let's go.
Oh, no, no. My name is Acevedo, but that's fine.
Acevedo.
It gets called a lot of stuff.
Well, I know I get called a lot of things too. Maybe not so much appropriate here, but no, just kidding. So, welcome, Gary. For over 40 years, he has immersed himself in over 30 cutting edge empowerment innovations like NLP, Rapid Eye, TBN, Gestalt, breath work, and many more. He has combined and built on these to design the pinnacle of personal effectiveness and empowerment. He has become recognized as a world-class trainer of trainers, creating advanced training for some of the country's best facilitators, coaches, healers, and speakers. He is the best-selling author of the book, Ignite the Gift You Are: 7 Master Keys to Awaken Your Passion, Power, and Profits. Gary created the Awakening Retreat, in which grads say is the pinnacle of reprogramming and healing. Successes have included work with AT&T, Mass Mutual, Hercules, Xerox, Einstein Bagels, the 1992 and 2000 Olympics, Career Track, and he designed training for Franklin Covey and Crucial Learning. So welcome to the podcast, Gary.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I am excited for our conversation today. And with that, can you start by sharing a little bit more about your personal journey and how it has led to where you are today?
Yeah, you betcha. I have a breakthrough process that I was fortunate to, when I was a young man, I spent 3 years with my first mentor, who was generations ahead of his time. I was very fortunate. And this breakthrough process has healed thousands of people and families, and it's empowered leaders to create miracles.
Mm.
And I'll share some of those success stories a little later, but I want to give you my own personal experience of a breakthrough so people kind of understand what it
Yeah,
is.
please do.
So, you know, I think I was 19. Mel Wasserman was my first mentor. He had a thing called Sea Foundation, and it was kind of the middle of the night. In those days, we used to go all night sometimes. And they put on a, we'd been doing some amazing process, and they put on a song called He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother. And all of a sudden, I remembered something that I'd forgotten about my whole life. I was 5 years old, and the bullies were slapping my brother. And my sister turned to me and said, "Gary, help him. He's your brother." And 5-year-old Gary's like, "You help him. He's your brother." Well, suddenly I realized in this amazing thing that Mel did that that was the day that I died, spiritually and emotionally. That's when, I mean, all human beings have what we call an emotional black hole, where children make up these words like, I'm stupid, I'm unlovable, I'm worthless, I'm not good enough. And that's when I made up that I was small and weak and couldn't even help my own brother.
Mhm.
So in the workshop, they said, you died that day because you sold out. You didn't honor your truth. And they put a big pillow in front of me and said, okay, that pillow's the bullies. And before they could finish the next sentence, I jumped on it and started hitting it, leave my brother alone, right? And I
Mhm.
don't know how long I hit it, but when I finally finished, I couldn't hardly lift my arms. And I sat
Mhm.
back, and suddenly I could feel all the years of tension in my body. It felt like a suit of armor underneath my skin. And then something from the earth, an energy from the earth came up and lifted me. And suddenly I let go of the tension, and I started to rise in my consciousness. And I got higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, higher.
Wow.
And it was like I I saw the truth of who I was. I
Mm.
saw my magnificence. I saw my highest self. I saw my divinity. And I couldn't stop crying. And the first thought was, thank you. And the second thought was, don't ever leave me. And the
Mhm.
third thought was, wow, what if I could share this with people? So that was the day I became a healer.
Nice.
And when we do the awakening, there's a day and a half of safety stuff and fun games and things that get people really blissed out. And then on the next day, we do the first breakthrough in front of the room. And I'll say, okay, who wants a breakthrough? Someone volunteers. I say, okay, what do you want a breakthrough on? Money, love life, business, whatever. And within 20, 25, 30 minutes, there's not a dry eye in the house. And everyone in that room is crystal clear that that person's life will never be the same.
Mm.
It's obvious,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. And it's so interesting that some of these breakthroughs can just happen in just a really short amount of time.
Yes, yes.
And
They
and it can
typically
happen to
take between
anybody.
an hour and a half and 3 hours.
Yeah. And it can literally change the trajectory of somebody's life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I learned is that human beings are like balloons. When you create enough subconscious safety, they automatically rise to really
Mhm.
high states of being. And when they get to the higher states of being, they have miraculous, life-changing, often very spiritual experiences, and often they ignite their spiritual gifts. Um, I'll share a couple of success stories.
Yeah.
Like this breakthrough technique has empowered leaders to create miracles. Like it empowered Mark Hughes to create Herbalife, which is at the time his face was on Fortune magazine. It was the fastest growing company in U.S. history.
Mm.
It also empowered Ron McMillan and Joseph Grenny, who literally brought 12 million people out of poverty by expanding Muhammad Yunus's thing of microloans around the world.
Wow.
And it saved Burt Bonnell's company, who today, his machine for premature babies' lives is saving thousands of babies' lives every year. And he was about to lose his company.
Mm.
And this tool saved his company.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of the breakthrough and help me work through this because you talked about an emotional like black hole, like you were
Yes.
emotionally and spiritually kind of dead at a time. And I think most people can relate because we really talk badly about ourselves. We
Well,
have
every
this-
human being has those. Every
yeah.
every human being has an emotional black hole. There's like a dozen of them, and everybody has one. That's kind of why we came to Earth.
Mhm.
And one time I was in a place called the Center for Feeling Therapy in Los Angeles with the world's greatest therapist. I mean, they had all worked with the giants of that time. And like my therapist was Steve Gold, who brought John Lennon through primal therapy. That's how
Okay.
amazing they were.
Mhm.
And while I was in the Center for Feeling Therapy during this workshop, this woman was having a really difficult time talking about what she considered her biggest hangup, which was being critical. And she felt like she'd ruined her children's lives. And suddenly I had this revelation where I realized that what she thought was her biggest hangup or shortcoming was in reality her greatest gift and
Mhm.
strength. And it was like seeing how children, their greatest gifts and strengths are like rays of light that stick out the farthest, and your greatest gifts get slapped down first, and they go in the opposite direction as what we call shortcomings or hangups.
Mm.
And at that moment, I realized human beings are perfect. They don't have hangups. So when I wrote the book, in the book, I put in there, what is the great gift behind being overweight? Or what's the great gift behind anxiety or depression or all the things that people criticize themselves for? Because
Mhm.
every so-called hang-up in reality is a great gift, strength, or talent. And when you let the gift fully express itself, the so-called hang-up just disappears.
Yeah.
And so what I love about these, see, when I got done with that workshop, see, in those days, in the old days, in the 70s, everything in my field was kind of confrontational in nature. It was kind of like take responsibility for your life. And I thought, well, if human beings are perfect, I wonder what would happen if I took the confrontation out of
Mhm.
my workshop. So I did a little experimental workshop. And I designed processes that shower people in what's right about you.
Mm.
And because I showered people in all these exercises that focus on what's right with you, I had miracles happen that I had never seen before.
Yeah.
And so that's what the awakening is.
Okay.
It works because I discovered that the greatest tool that any presenter has, whether it's a fifth grade teacher or Fortune 500 CEO, the greatest tool any presenter has is the quote, space of a room. It's that
Mhm.
little invisible energy that
Mhm.
gets people touched and moved and lifted and inspired. And so because I learned how to focus on what's right with people,
Mhm.
the like I've been through like 30 different disciplines, and I've seen a lot of amazing workshops with the giants of our time.
Right.
And I've never seen a space that gets as high, as touched and moved and lifted and inspired as I do at the Awakening. And I have people who've been through every other workshop who tell
Mhm.
me when they get done with the Awakening, it's like, I've never seen anything like this.
Right.
It's like walking through a door and saying, let's see what heaven on earth would look like.
Mhm.
Hopefully someday. Well, now you have, 5 days in phase one and 4 days in phase, it's like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I just to see the energy level. I mean, you just know yourself. Like if somebody gives you a compliment and you receive it wholeheartedly, it's just like how much you're lifted. But if you are surrounded by all of that good energy and any of the
Yeah,
confrontation, any of the negative thoughts are aside, and you're just focusing on what's right and what's good, like the rays of light are just permeating so brightly from that. I mean,
yeah,
it is, you could just
yeah.
like everybody lifts up. That is just amazing.
Well, everybody remembers compliments that they got when they were in elementary school or junior high or high school.
Mhm.
And so one of the things I do in almost every workshop is called the greatest key to influence. And the way I say it is that in your lifetime, what you can be, what you can do, and what you can have will greatly depend on one key ability, your ability to influence.
Mhm. Mhm.
And basically, what I teach people is that the greatest key to influence, and this is actually what I do when I do companies and corporations and things like that. Um, the greatest key to influence is to speak to one's highest nobility. So we do lots of exercises where, like, we'll take a volunteer, and then the group will use their intuition. I'll teach them how to use their intuition,
Mhm.
and then they shower this person what they recognize in their gifts, strengths, and talents. And even when we get in small groups, and they do that for each other, they're all amazed. First of all, that everybody can recognize their gifts, strengths, and talents, and
Mhm.
secondly, they're all amazed that they can see all of that stuff because they've never had permission to really see all that in each other,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, and that is a good key because we are not given a lot of permission
Yeah.
to shower somebody with their own goodness, just reflecting back the light that they're giving to others. Most of the
Yes.
time we are that critical mom, that I mean, I know I
Yeah.
have 6 kids and I can be very critical,
Yeah.
and we have a tendency to find what's wrong,
That's right.
but
That's
we
right. Well,
don't, well, but we need to really shower what's right. We need to reflect what's good.
yeah, even scientists know that when you walk into a room, your eye will automatically go to the picture on the wall that's a little off. You know what I mean? And so,
Yep.
like, I have a parenting course, and one day I told my young son, he's 13, my older son is 34, but I told him, I said, Derek, I'm a much better father to you than I was to Eli. And he said, well, what makes you a better father? Great question.
Oh
So
yeah.
I started rattling off, and I realized, oh my goodness, this should be a document in the parenting course, right? So now I have a document called the top 11 things parents can do for their children. And
Yeah.
of course, the greatest key for parents or for self is to never criticize. Don't criticize anybody. Don't criticize your kids. Don't criticize yourself ever. Because like when people come into my long-term, I have a long-term program called Movement to Mastery where they get consistent long-term support.
Mhm.
And the first skill I teach them, because people often like they can only pick one dream and they have to focus on that unless they get it.
Mhm.
And we create unbelievable support, no exits games and things. And when people say, I want to learn how to love myself,
Mhm.
and the fundamental for how to do that is number one, every time you have a critical or a negative thought go through your head, any doubt, any fear, anything negative, hang up the phone. Like literally just hang up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Take that thought and put it in a separate room in your mind, and then refocus on what makes your heart sing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a whole workshop called Magical Realms of the Sacred Self that teaches people how to focus, how to live what makes their heart sing,
Yeah.
because that's the key to everything. You
Well,
know, I found out years ago that the greatest key to for either self-realization or success is to learn how to honor your truth.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fascinating that every upset that human beings have cannot even exist until the moment somebody betrays their truth. They give in, they go along with, they sell out. You know, your physiology literally cannot have an upset until the moment you betray your truth.
Mm.
And then when people make a commitment to honor their truth again, the upset goes away.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that. People don't know where upsets begin or they end.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a recurring thing, because they don't really take the time to separate the two.
Right.
It's just
They never
becomes a
notice.
daily occurrence.
They
Yeah.
think their circumstances are the reason, but it's
Yeah.
never the circumstances. It's always
No.
something triggers something inside.
Yeah, it's a mindset, like a decision almost. It's a thought we, instead of taking that thought and hanging it up and and refocusing on it, we just allow it to permeate and to
That's right.
circulate. And we have that choice. Like, we can hang it up.
That's right. That's right.
And
Right.
so focusing more on what is right, what is your true nature.
Right.
And that
Makes your heart sing.
yes, your heart's. And I think a lot of people are very like, those are some good exercises to try to, like, one of those two things, like hang it up, but gosh, we get so overwhelmed with our own negative thoughts.
Yes. Yes. In my long-term program, I have a series of about 10 things that they learn step at a time. So, because it's kind of like if somebody, like in my own life, if I have an upset circumstance that really doesn't fit my pictures, I'll start with hanging up the phone and then I'll do some recreation or energy work. And we
Mhm.
have a tool called empowerment dialogue, which is a layman's version of Gestalt therapy with two
Mhm.
chairs. Because Fritz Perls discovered that if you have people talking out loud with two chairs, it brings things from subconscious to conscious. So we have a whole list of stuff. And at the end, if nothing else resolves the issue, then they can do an awakening style breakthrough if they know how to do that. Because after the awakening, we teach them, there's another course that they can do to learn how to do the breakthroughs,
Mm. Mhm.
and that always resolves anything and usually I don't need to get very far down the list because I've learned how to manage my consciousness
Mhm.
even during impossible circumstances,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because
so,
we all
but
get
it is.
triggered.
It is. It's training our brain. It's like training, our brain is
Yeah,
like a muscle, we train it.
that's right.
And if we
That's right.
and if we don't train it, it gets kind of weak and, fails on us.
That's right. It's like a good athlete who has become excellent because they just practice and practice and practice and practice.
Mhm.
And once people learn how to manage their consciousness, everything changes.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
So is
Matter
there
of
like
fact,
a
I've
one?
even worked with athletes and had miracles with athletes. Like I had only one time for one session with Muffy Davis before the Paralympics, and using an NLP technique to anchor in her peak experience in skiing.
Mhm.
I did that, and she won 4 silver medals. And then I was telling these stories to my family, and my nephew was like, I think 13 or 14, and he says, Gary, I want you to do that for me because I'm really into bouldering, right? So I said, sure. So Laura and I came and we gave him a physical anchor,
Mhm.
which is any two physical parts touching, like two fingers, hand on your face or hand on your chest or whatever. We gave him a physical anchor. And a couple years later, he took youth nationals 3 years in a row. Then he took adult nationals 3 years in a row. And at the last Olympics, he got a silver medal in bouldering.
Wow.
And what I tell people is you got to understand this is my nephew. If I can do that for my nephew,
Hmm.
What could you do for your loved ones if you had a few of these tools?
Right. Right. And so it sounds like it's pretty easy for, just any kind of person to take a couple tools and to really practice it and to make a
Yeah,
shift.
that's right. And of course, the ultimate thing I offer people is the Awakening Retreat because it is a absolutely life-changing experience. I mean, we have lots of workshops for entry level, like people who haven't done a workshop before, and
Mhm.
they're wonderful. But when I do my private sessions or the workshops, I always tell people, if you want the best that I can offer you, do the Awakening Retreat because it is a life-changing experience,
Mhm. Mhm.
paradigm shifting.
Right. Right. Yeah, and with that, how do they like learn more about that? Like where can they
Well,
find
they can
information about
either
it?
they can go to my website, which is riseleadershipgroup.com, or they can email me.
Okay.
People can email me to gary@riselg.com.
That's great because you'll have all that information and they'll email you and you can send it to them as well. But I
Yeah,
will put
yeah,
the link to the website in the show
yeah,
notes for people to be able to, just access just what is
yeah,
this? I mean, it just seems so very, I mean, I can't describe, but life-changing,
yeah,
but it's practicing it.
yeah. And when they go to the website, they can see a slideshow of the awakening. So they
Okay.
can see, and it's really touching to watch because in all my workshops, nobody has to participate. Like everybody can just sit and watch or
Mhm.
not participate. And same with the awakening. And when you watch the slideshow, you're kind of amazed that people are doing these wonderful, incredible things, and they don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
because it's based on safety. It's based
Mhm.
on subconscious safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that trust that that is going to be a safe place. It's going to be
Yeah.
a good thing for us to experience.
Yeah, that's right. When I teach trainers, either from AT&T or people who want to be in front of the room, healers, coaches, facilitators, which are typically my
Mhm.
favorite clients, I love teaching them. Like I have a manual with over 100 different tools that inject subconscious safety into any workshop so that they can really have a successful workshop
Mhm.
based on subconscious safety.
Yeah, because that's a real key. I mean, nobody, you're going to have a lot of people that are probably pretty skeptical, like pretty guarded. Their
Yes.
walls are up, they don't,
Yeah.
they've been hurt before. Yeah.
Yes.
And so they're being very cautious.
That's right.
But if their
And
subconscious being can feel safe, like this is good, like I
oh yeah.
can let go and then it can permeate some of that inside them
Oh,
and
that's
then
right.
they can
Yeah,
absorb
that's right.
more.
Even in the awakening on the first full day, it's very common for people to say, I can't believe I'm safer with this group of strangers than I am with my own family.
And I think that's a great statement because we carry a lot of baggage
Oh yeah.
around with certain people that we know a lot because we
Oh,
are
absolutely.
afraid of what they're going to think, afraid of what they're going to do, how are they going to perceive us? And with a group of strangers, sometimes it is really a lot easier just to be
Oh,
open.
I have a lot of people. I love it when a whole family comes to the awakening, or
Mm,
like a mom and a son, or a father and a daughter, or any family that comes, sisters, because that relationship will never be the same. And
mhm.
when I've had whole families, it's amazing
Oh, I bet.
what happens to that family when they see each other's breakthrough and they're so full of love that it'll never be the same. And I
Mhm,
have people who like came to the awakening because their sons or daughters have blocked them, like they don't want anything to do with them. And then they
mhm.
come and they get their family back.
Yeah,
It's wonderful.
yeah, yeah. So really anybody can benefit.
Yeah. Well, we have it. We go from 9 years old on up. And I've had at times, if I interview kids, I've had a couple of 7-year-olds do it. But
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
from that age on up,
yeah. There's a
yeah,
lot there.
yeah,
Can you share maybe one other technique or something that maybe just anybody in the listeners could like, hey, maybe just
sure,
gravitate towards to
sure,
like, hey, let me try this
yeah,
on myself,
yeah, yeah. I mean, the first tool is hang up the phone and put it in another room and focus. But Another great tool, which is kind of a beginning phase of empowerment dialogue, which is the layman's version of Gestalt therapy, is, you know, once people learn how to do the two chairs,
Mhm.
they never have to make a bad decision for the rest of their lives
Mm.
if they have time to do the two chairs. So a beginner version of it would be when you have a tough time making a decision, pull two chairs out, sit them facing each other, someplace where you're not self-conscious about anybody listening,
Mhm.
and then let one side be one chair, let the other side be the other chair. Like, I really do want to leave my job and start my private practice. And the other side, yeah, but and
Mhm.
let them talk it out, because when you let the voices talk out loud,
Mhm.
it brings things from subconscious to conscious. And if
Mhm.
you're really lucky, then you'll have a resolve. You'll have come to a decision is what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then if you don't seem to get resolved on your own, then you might want to contact us so we can have one of our people take you through it.
Right, right. But it is really important. A lot of times you just that example of making a decision and talking it out.
Yes.
I mean, I talk about, I talk out loud often. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's really, it's a lot better to hear our voice. We're explaining it out loud, but then we get to hear our own voice and hear
that's
what
right.
it sounds like, and then other things come up. So we're, kind of debating ourselves in a very physical way where you can switch chairs, like this chair I'm going to say no, I can't do this, and this chair I'm going to say yes, and you give the reasons, and then you come up with an answer, usually, with
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
get some help, have somebody
Yeah,
else.
the genius of that Fitzgerald discovered is that it brings things from subconscious to conscious. And when you do that, then it happens. As a matter of fact, I've had a lot of people who've like lost a child, which should be against the laws of physics. You know what I
Right,
mean? In phenomenal grief. And when I've used the two chair technique and had them talk to that child and say everything and anything, and then switch chairs and let the child talk back, it's amazing, or whoever, the father.
right.
And it's amazing how quickly people can get resolved, because a lot of times when people are in deep grief, it often takes years for them to get to where they can get their life back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're able to just share everything that they really wanted to say
that's right.
that they couldn't.
That's right. Because they think that because they're gone, they can't say anything.
Yeah.
They don't realize the relationship is in them. It's
Yep.
not out here.
Yep.
So when they say everything and anything, I like even Warren Earhart's quote where he says, when you say all the good things and all the bad things, the only thing left to say is, I love you. It's a
Yeah.
great quote.
Yeah. Because when it's all out there, what's left?
That's right.
Because we all exude love.
That's right. Because that's really who we are. Who
Yeah.
we are is unconditional love,
Yes.
or what people call Christ-like love. That's
Mhm.
that's the true nature of who
Right.
we are.
Right. Right. And that's just great. So people check out, listeners, those watching on YouTube, just, check out riselg.com. Go, see what Gary's awakening retreat is about, but also his books. He's got so many different resources. So glad you are able to share that with my listeners today and the world, and changing so many different lives. But as we wrap up, can you share like maybe just another thought or a quote just to wrap up, and leave whatever thought or quote you want with the listeners today?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, my context, my higher purpose for life is to bring heaven to earth.
Mhm.
And I want to have as big a slice of pie of that as I possibly can. And so if you if you give it a possibility that you are a gift, no one on this earth is not a gift.
Right.
And if you are ready to show up and shine and be the gift you came to be, then there are many ways that you can get in touch with what your mission and purpose is in this lifetime. And you can become safe enough to really get out there and be the magnificence that you came to be.
And Gary's going to help you with that.
If I can, I'm happy to.
Yes.
It's always my privilege and honor. Like I do a thing called higher self readings because a long time ago, um, God stepped into me when I was at the awakening, and Gary moved to the left, and I got to look through God's eyes at people. And because of that, I can kind of see the next 4 or 5 years of somebody's life, and I can tell them what their highest self really looks like.
Mm,
And I have to use metaphors because it's beyond words,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
use metaphors, and then I can let them know why did they choose the family and the bloodline that they chose. See, the spirit realm is like the negative of a photograph. So let's say in the spirit realm you're like unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you pick a family and a bloodline that's exactly the opposite of unconditional love. You pick a family and a bloodline that is like critical and judgmental and righteous, maybe even prejudiced. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're the essence of freedom in that realm, you pick a family and a bloodline that is constrained and bound up and suppressed and tight and and
Mm-hmm.
so it's fascinating to see that whatever people's greatest gift was before they got here, they actually always choose the opposite as a battle to work through. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I find it kind of funny, but then not, because I'm thinking, well, if your greatest gift was this beautiful, like
Yeah.
love, and then you choose the opposite, that's just, to me, that was like a sign that you need to shed more of that to that so you can change those people
Yeah,
and
because if
change
they work
that
through
history.
that, if they
Yeah,
work through that, they're going to get to be even more than they were in that realm.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think that is truly the greatest gift I ever received was being able to see the
yeah.
magnificence and beauty of each human being.
Right, right. Oh, that is so amazing. And I hope that all listeners try a piece of this, you know, for yourself, to be able to see the magnificent in yourself and in those around you, and
That's
truly,
right.
truly can transform people's lives. So thank you so much for joining me, Gary. This has been great. I hope a lot of listeners get some greatness out of that. And at least the minimum, just know that you are love. You are
Yes.
amazing just the way you are.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Thank you.